from Sort Out with your 60-second slice. Day 3 at the French Open. The ball kids possibly doing a little meditation before they hit the courts, not sure. And our tennis writers, they are the best in the biz. However, we might need to put them through a selfie tutorial, but at least they're having fun. Those not having fun, Caroline Wozniacki, whose broken heart is not doing any wonders for a tennis game, as Woz was ousted in the first round to a player ranked 64th in the world just 1 week after her breakup with Rory McIlroy. But an even bigger surprise is the exit of the former French Open champion Li Na, who fell to Kristina Mladenovic in 3 sets. Now, both Aussie Open champs are gone. Other notable wins among the women, Simona Halep, the American Sloane Stephens, and Ana Ivanovic. On the men's side, Andy Murray pulled out the opening match in 4 sets against Andrei Golubev of Kazakhstan, and the American Jack Sock advances after the Spaniard Nicolas Almagro retired in the first set. Others advancing, David Ferrer, Richard Gasquet, and Gael Monfils. That's it for us. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Hi, it's Bob Kraft of tennisministry.org, and I'm glad to be able to talk to you today. I'm bringing you a topic on the pro tennis players during the past decade and my experiences. Back in 2002, when I first started really full-time, I started back in the early 90s, and I met a lot of players like Sampras and Agassi, people like that. But 2002 was when I really started to put my full heart into it, my full time. And the player that at the French Open that were coming up, Anastasia Moshkina, and she won the tournament, the French Open. And I didn't really know the players, especially if they were clay court players, because I came from hard courts, the U.S. at that time, and the clay court players weren't that well known in the U.S. But I got to know these players, and there were some men players who won the tournament that year, and they were on the scene for a year or two. They were very famous on clay courts in the world, but in my world they weren't that well known. And but I got to know them, and Anastasia, I got to know her. Her coach was from Stuttgart, Germany, and I had lived in Stuttgart, and I said hello to him. We just said hello to each other, became friendly to each other, but we weren't great friends. But we were kind to each other. Anastasia didn't really know who I was. I was new on the scene, but no one really knew who she was because she came and won the tournament totally unexpected, and no one expected her to win that Grand Slam final. She had a cross, and I spoke to her about that, and turned out she was a Christian. But I said, "Does it mean anything to you?" Let me rephrase that, okay? I want to clarify that. I said, "Does this mean anything to you?" And she said, "No, it doesn't. I just jewelry." So she wasn't a Christian. I want to clarify that. But I was looking for ways to speak to her. And obviously she came from Russia, Moscow. She was, if she had any church background at all, it might have been through the Orthodox Church. So, what did stand out, what I learned from that, was that when she won the tournament, she was the darling. She was on all the magazines, in the press. Everybody said she's going to be. She ended up #1 in the world for a brief period of time because of her ranking points, and she's on top of the world. There weren't that many Russian players that were #1 in the world before 2002. So she said, she told me, "I want to take my prize money, and her idea was she was going to be #1 for a long time. She was going to make a lot of money from tennis, and that she said she wanted to use her prize money for orphanages, because she had a heart for orphanages in her country, children without parents." And I was very new at the game at that time. I didn't know too much about the pro tour. What happened was, what I learned from it was that she was #1 just for a very, very brief period of time, and she disappeared. I mean, within a matter of a year to a year and a half, she was struggling to even play tennis, and she quit shortly thereafter the game. So here's someone who'd been all this adulation, and I saw it firsthand, and the agents chasing her, all of a sudden nobody wanted to talk to her, and she wasn't even on the pro tour. She never came back. And it's kind of like everything we work for and everything we assume that things are going to be a certain way, but then they don't turn out that way. even if you're at the top of the world. And the good news about this is through Facebook and some other things, I'm thinking maybe she accepted Christ, because I've seen some things where she's talked about her faith in the media, and that's not something she did before. I'm praying that she had that relationship, with that encounter with Christ face to face. Her coach, who had then moved on, they were a boyfriend and girlfriend at that time while he was coaching her. He then moved on, and he actually has told me that he accepted Christ. He went and taught in England, and now I'm not sure where he's at. And he and I had fellowship a brief period of time when I saw him at a tournament many years later. And so I think that's fabulous. I'm praying that he will grow and that he'll find a good home church. But these are all things that, this is the reality of life on the pro tour. And you know, sometimes we think that we have a goal to be the best, and we maybe even are the best, but things aren't. We can live in a make-believe world in our head as to what the world is going to be like, and we can create it. We can seemingly create it, but actually it's not that way. What goes on sometimes is out of our control, and you have to be prepared to handle that in your own life. And having a good solid rock, which is a faith in Jesus Christ, which never changes, is the rock of salvation. That is so helpful during the highs and lows of your life.